on the Cleveland trade, I think it definitely helps him. You look at a guy like Delonte West, you look at a guy like Wally Szczerbiak, these are two guys who can knock down outside shots, and they're a hell of a lot better than Larry Hughes was on that team. And Ben Wallace is an upgrade from Drew Gooden, in my opinion. When you have
I totally disagree with you. And let me tell you why. Drew Gooden, that mid-range jumper, that was what killed. I mean, particularly looking at it from a Pistons standpoint. But look, I've seen so many games in the playoffs where Ben Wallace, it's 4-on-5 on the offensive end. Maybe it's 6-on-5 on the defensive end, but it's definitely 4-on-5 on the offensive end. It is so frustrating. It's going to kill their offense. I
think Cleveland can play 1-on-5 in the offensive end, and LeBron will figure out a way to get it done. That's what he did last year.
You're exactly
This is an argument for a whole nother time. We will move on.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to move back to the college hardwood now. We're talking a little bit Tommy Amaker. You heard about him? You know, he beat Michigan earlier in the season. Probably the most embarrassing game for Michigan basketball fans. But now, a little bit of embarrassment coming back Tommy's way, getting into some trouble for some academic standards and stuff like that.
This is really weird to me. This is a story that broke in the New York Times on March 2nd. I'm obviously from the New York area, so this was something that just caught my eye as I was on the way to the airport. Pretty much Harvard lowering its academic standards, which, okay, you know, schools do that. But Harvard, you know, a school that's always at the forefront of every academic discussion, obviously an Ivy League school, holds academics to the highest standard. Dropping those standards a little bit for basketball players is an issue in and of itself. The other issue are possible recruiting violations. Again, these are recruiting violations that probably would not get any sort of media attention if they happened at a major conference school, but because it's Harvard, it's obviously, you know, a little bit of a spotlight there. Right. But a guy by the name of Kenny Blakeney, who was a friend back at Duke of Tommy Amaker's, played pickup games with recruits who ended up going to Harvard, and lo and behold, Blakeney ends up getting hired to be an assistant coach just days after. Little fishy, you're not supposed to have contacts with recruits, not supposed to engage them in any way. That's exactly what Blakeney did, and he was not a member of that Harvard staff at the time.
Yeah, you know, and well, here's the thing. You know, I have the utmost respect for Tommy Amaker. He's a classy guy. He's a classy loser. I respect him as the loser coach that he was. You know, he can recruit great. He always has been able to recruit great.
This class for Harvard is projected to be a top 25 class.
Exactly. So now, this raises the question, is this why he's been able to recruit so well? I don't think so. I really do truly believe that Tommy's a classy guy. He just can't coach. So, you know, give him a top 25 class. I have doubts about them being a top 25.
He's always been a great recruiter. He had a great class at Seton Hall. He could have done better at Michigan, obviously battled with some sanctions with the program when he was here. But a top 25 class for Harvard is ridiculous if you think about it.
But once again, on the hardwood,
again, that's something we can save. It's a whole nother debate. We'll see if Harvard cracks any polls in the next couple of years.
You're right.
Going over to Michigan baseball, this is a team that had a 4-4 tie against my New York Mets. They started the season ranked 8th in Baseball America's polls. Just how high are the expectations for this team?
Well, they've never been higher in history from what I'm told and what I've known about Michigan. I mean, Michigan baseball, before last year, I knew we had a baseball team, but that's about all I knew. You know, they lost in Super Regionals last year. Of course, that New York Mets game, very interesting. The whole Kevin Cicelo bunting thing, where Billy Wagner, after that, you know, said I would have drilled the next guy in the head. That's a whole other issue as well. But you know what? The expectations have never been higher, and so that's great. Let's see if they can live up to them. It's a new phase for Michigan baseball.
Yep.
They have to see if they can, you know, with the pressure on their shoulders, see if they can respond.
Listen, in Arizona this past weekend, they lost 3 of 4 games, 2 of them to top-ranked Arizona State, another disappointing upset to Portland, okay? This team is not quite at that elite level. They were grossly overranked at 8th by Baseball America. The ESPN USA Today poll had them at 18th. Again, I think they were overrated there. They fell in the Baseball America poll from 8 to 27, which is where they fit. And I mean, keep in mind, they benefit from playing a Big Ten schedule. Obviously, no baseball powerhouses in the Big Ten. You want baseball powerhouses, Florida, Florida State, Miami, Clemson, North Carolina, Arizona, the Southern schools.
Right.
They had a chance to show they could play with those schools. Didn't get it done. Now we'll have to wait until whatever postseason baseball they get to.
Yeah, you're right.
But nonetheless, a good team. Get out there, support the team. It's fun. Go to a baseball game.
Expectations, always a good thing.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is time for a little Charles in Charge, You Say Maize style. Stick around.
You know we're right here, right?
Yeah,
Charles in charge of our days and our nights. Charles in charge of our wrongs and our rights. And I want Charles in charge of me.
Well, I'm totally intimidated. He has his own intro, but we're going to be back here at You Say Maize, I Say Blue. I'm Alex Prasad. alongside Danny Sass. Christy Sean can't be with us today. We're going to bring in Charlie Clinton who's going to talk not hot stove baseball, but NFL offseason. Charlie, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. We just came off a break, got myself a new Michigan shirt. I'm feeling pretty good.
All right, well, let's see if you know your stuff. We're going to start off with probably, I would say, the biggest name to sign so far. Randy Moss re-signs with the New England Patriots. Charlie, how important was it for the Patriots to re-sign their star wide receiver?
Oh, it was incredibly important. It gives them another option to use. I mean, Randy Moss is an amazing receiver, and he's not just an amazing receiver, he really makes the New England Patriots a better team because he gives them the ability to use him as a decoy. Sometimes when it seems like they pass the ball too much, they can run the ball to Lawrence Maroney, and Lawrence Maroney can tear it up there too, or they can throw the ball to Wes Welker. And they really, with Randy Moss, it really keeps the opposing defenses guessing. So I think it's really key that they re-signed him.
Well, Charlie, shifting gears here from the Patriots to the Cleveland Browns, do Braylon and the Browns appear playoff bound after the recent moves they've made this offseason?
I'm not 100% certain. I think that they definitely improved in some areas. They got Dante Stallworth, a good number 2 receiver to back up Braylon Edwards from the Patriots. They re-signed Derek Anderson, and if he's going to be working in tandem with Brady Quinn, I think that that's going to be a very good thing for the Browns. One questionable move, however, is getting Shawn Rodgers in a trade for Kevin Smith. That was a little. I'm not 100% sold on it. Shawn Rodgers can be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, but he's but sometimes he can be really, really iffy because of lack of motivation sometimes. So that's gonna be a move if they can improve their defense, it's gonna be a huge move. They're gonna make the playoffs.
All right. Well, speaking of the Lions, Danny. The Lions, they're bad. Charlie, have you done anything this offseason that makes you, think that there's hope for Lions fans like me? Please, Charlie, give me some hope.
I used to be a Lions fan myself. Generally, I think that there's rarely ever any hope. But there is one thing that they've done right that is definitely being seen right now, and that's getting rid of Fernando Rodney. They cut him a few days ago. And he was actually not really a decent cornerback. He was not very good. I mean, the secondary last season was absolutely awful. But they got Kevin and Dwight Smith, and those guys are decent corners. And the secondary was something that they needed to improve in. But they still need to improve in some other areas, like especially offensive line. They have needed to improve in that ever since they had Barry Sanders. So.
Charlie, you said Fernando Rodney. I'm assuming you
My
have baseball stuck on your mind right now.
Fernando Bryant.
Knowing what the Lions have done lately, I wouldn't be surprised if you stuck Fernando Rodney in that secondary and they improved their pass defense a little bit.
I meant to say Fernando Bryant.
No worries. And another question here. What are some offseason moves that no one's talking about, something that's flown under the radar a little bit?
I'm going to talk about Lance Briggs of the Chicago Bears, a linebacker. He had 104 tackles last season, 84 solo, which is very impressive. And he re-signed with the Chicago Bears last season. During the offseason, he had made some noise about wanting to be traded, and yet he had one of the best seasons of his career last year. And he's going to be crucial in the Bears' attempts to return to relevance next season.
All right, and quickly, Charlie, we got the last question for you. What offseason move thus far you think will have the greatest impact in the 2008 season?
I'm not going to talk about a player. I'm going to talk about Redskins hiring Jim Zorn as their coach. I mean, last year the Redskins came out of nowhere to clinch the last playoff spot in the NFC, and I think that was mainly because of Joe Gibbs' ability to lead the team. And the fact that Joe Gibbs quit this year and they had to hire the guy that they had for 4 days as their offensive coordinator, Jim Zorn, is going to really, this is going to be really pivotal in whether